So this poem is called Don't Just Fuck Me. Don't just fuck me. Explore me. Map my body like it's the desert and you're searching for the fountain of youth.
Telenovela.
So this poem is called Don't Just Fuck Me. Don't just fuck me. Explore me. Map my body like it's the desert and you're searching for the fountain of youth. And you found it in my center. And now must quench your undying thirst to be nourished from my water and my river. Let it satisfy you. Let me inspire your creativity and produce a beat boasting an 808 and tom-toms to rock my core. Don't just fuck me. Look at me. Don't close your eyes and call me baby. Don't turn off the lights. Look at me. Look at the gift I'm giving you. Unwrap it like a present on Christmas Day whose paper was too pretty to bust open. Don't bust it, baby. That's not my name. That's everyone's name at some point. Let me know where you stand and say it softly and sweet. And I will let you know how to pronounce each syllable so that you never forget the flavor of each letter. I won't make it so my book is the only thing you can read at night. When others appear, barely read, shiny and new, you still only reach for my spine. Don't just fuck me. Succumb to the beauty of my femininity. Tell me how I overcome you, how you need to breathe my aroma because your lungs no longer respond to oxygen, and in order to revive yourself, I must clap until you rise from the dead and make me fly. Don't just fuck me. Talk to my body in a language only angels understand. Whisper sweet nothings between my thighs. Wrap me in your love and send me to heaven with your touch. Get to know me in ways only few have seen. Travel with me as we journey through the stars. Take me on a ride across the river, across the universe that I will only remember after I've recovered from the jet lag you've caused. Don't just fuck me. Experience me. Thank you. Yeah. It's called Hold Me Down. When you love me, I wonder, can you hold me down? when we're marching through the streets, sharing our love, sharing our darkness, our kinkiness. Will you hold me down? Unashamed of my brazen sexuality, will you believe what the people say about me, or will you see my soul? My body is my own, but not its image. I can't control how people see me, but can only hope you see me the way I see myself, a queen. Not a slave to society. Can you hear what I'm saying to you without me saying the exact words? I need you to hold me down. Hold me down so we can rise up and move as kings made in his image. I need you to hold me down. As if this was war, but this is war, and this war could tear us apart. Like they have been trying to tear our skin for years, but my skin is brown as chocolate, and yours is oil, and we mix and create strength. And baby, I need you to hold me down so we can rise up. Can you hear what I'm saying without me saying the words? Baby, I need you, because we have always been there for you. So now we need our men to stand strong, to be who they are, made in the image of a king, made to protect a queen. Can you hold me down? Because we, with our blackness, have always held you down. Thank you.
So what you just heard was you heard an introduction from Baxter Wordsworth, and then you heard two poems from me, your host, Dale Novella of Royalty Entertainment Company, a.k.a. The Wreck Life. And I'm here with two beautiful black men, plus Jade Zabrick on the boards. And we're going to talk about some stuff. But first, I need to introduce my guests.
Yes.
Panelists. They're
Okay.
always here. Because I make them. I'm kind of scary in real life.
You don't make me be here.
But starting on my left of our little pyramid is the international hip-hop icon, educator, sweetheart, arts administrator, just released an album that he recorded all over the world. Mikal Amin, how are you?
Yeah. I'm tired. But we just got back from Rotterdam, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Too short. Shouts to P1
Definitely.
and his lady. P1 held us down on the decks for the weekend, and shouts to Henka and the whole crew out there in Rotterdam. It was a good time. Definitely cop that album, Fresh Roots, fresh like groceries, roots like reggae. Music.com or freshroots.bandcamp.com. It's on all streaming platforms as well, Spotify, iTunes, all those. But
Can you tell us how to spell your name too, so we can get it on Google Play?
Yeah, sure. Mikal, first name, middle name Amin, Amin, Mikal Amin.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
What's your last name?
My last name is Lee.
Duh.
Yeah, that's the slave name. We don't
Oh.
we don't mess with that.
Wow, what's duh?
We don't mess with that.
That's fine.
Nah, I'm joking. Nah, no. Honestly, Mikal Lee doesn't sound as dope as Mikal Amin. Honestly, for his stage
Mikal
name.
is super dope.
Yeah,
I agree.
that works for me. Love you, Dad. And Mom.
Thank you for being here, even though I made you. And on my right of our
Hey.
little panel pyramid, the most celebrated host in all of New York underground hip hop's history.
I don't know about that, but okay, I'll take it.
Good friend, jokester, and hip hop phenom, Baxter Wordsworth.
Yay.
How you doing today?
I'm gonna echo Mikal's sentiments of being tired, but I feel like summer's just kind of hit. The heat is just gone up. It's a good time to be tired, But yeah, excited for a couple of things coming up. One is a wedding that I'll be attending.
What?
What? That's coming up. That's right around the corner.
Yeah.
On top of that, The Poet is coming up, which will have an amazing feature this month as well. What? Which is
Wait, what is The Poet, and who are these features?
The Poet will be televised is a monthly jam session that I host that is curated by one Dale Novella.
What?
It happens every second Wednesday of the month at Sylvana's, which I thought was one address, but really is
It's 300 116th Street.
300 116th Street. And we will be there not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that
Yes.
with our feature,
Where the Love Is.
Where the Love Is.
Consisting of Dale Novella and McCallamine.
Consisting of
Yeah.
2/3 of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be amazing. I'm excited with that. EO Dub is also coming up. We're closing out our this year's challenge. I think we might have 2 challenges left or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's cool.
Before the Challenge of Champions.
Before the Challenge of Champions. And it ought to be crazy. So far, we have Rabbi Darkside, Papa Left, and Inti Kana in it. So
Papa left?
Papa Left.
Who stayed?
Mama, I guess.
Dum-dum.
But yeah, EO Dub, the poet, Unions of Love. It's 2019 shaping up to be a beautiful year. So I'm really excited with it.
Nice. It's the year of 3 in numerology.
Uno, dos, tres.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's also divisible by 3. That ends in
Yes.
9. It has to be.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you get 3 in numerology, but whatever. Would any of you like to introduce me? Macau usually
So- No.
interrupts me.
Well, no, because
And it's like,
usually you jump to another person, so I already know I have to do that. Soulstress, amazing entrepreneur extraordinaire, singer on several different continents and countries.
Ooh.
The incomparable Miss Dale Novella. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. What do I have going on? I'm promoting the song I have with McCallamine called Where the Love Is, just
Mhm.
like our band.
Right.
I'm putting myself out there as a yoga instructor, so if you need to get stretched out in the yogi way, you can hit me up on Instagram or however. I'm the only Dale Novella in the world, so I'm pretty easy to find. And I'm writing new stuff, trying to make more beats, and finishing up the school year with my kiddos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All amazing things.
yeah. And, of course, looking forward to my wedding, and the poet will be televised as well. I'm
Jade,
looking forward to not planning them anymore, actually.
can we ask Jade how she's doing?
Jade
how
just
are you?
put up a thumb.
Thumbs
Jade's
up.
like, I don't really need this kind of attention. But anyway, we heard we listened to a couple of videos, and one video featured myself, and it had 2 poems in it. The first one was called "Don't Just Fuck Me," and the second one was called "Hold Me Down," which, just going off those titles sounds very interesting.
Right.
But the first poem is just asking for a deeper connection in the bedroom, and the second poem is talking more about a deeper connection in the world socially as a black couple. And I was wondering, when I picked this video clip to listen to, what are the things we look for in partners? And this, because the poems were about romantic relationships, and because I'm about to get married, and that's where my head is right now.
In the clouds.
In the clouds. But also, a lot of the principles that we look for in our romantic relationships are in all partnerships. So what are maybe like your top 3 that you absolutely need in a partner?
I feel like you guys had this conversation already.
Did we?
No, you guys.
Oh, I mean, we probably
think
did,
so.
but we
Right,
didn't
just
have it
maybe.
with
Maybe.
everyone.
I hope.
We didn't have it on the...
I feel,
Sometime at some point we
I
did.
feel a little bit like a third wheel, but no.
It's like awkward.
There's like 2 other people in the room.
Awkward.
no,
No, it's not specific to us. We're not in premarital counseling right now. That's not what's going on.
I'll go first because then you guys can talk to each other. No. So-
Awkward.
And as far as partnership, I think the most important thing is how you communicate and how you
Mhm.
deal with problems. Because like every relationship, be it romantic or otherwise, you're gonna eventually gonna run into situations that aren't convenient or aren't especially nice, or there's gonna be obstacles, right? And how someone is able to communicate and how someone reacts to those things will I think will impact how your relationship is going to exist.
Mhm.
Period. If you're dealing with someone who gets angry and like closes up, if that's not how you want to communicate, like what are you gonna do? You know, that's how they react to things. That's the way that they go into things. I specifically look for people who aren't afraid to be human and allow other people the space to be human as well, and also kind of stay solution oriented. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be like, hey, this is how I feel. Even if I can acknowledge that this isn't like logical, this is how I feel, you know? And then after we've both come into an understanding of how you feel, it's like, where do you want to be? Like what like, do you want to be happy? Do you want to be arguing? And like when you realize that, it's like, all right, how do we get from where we're at to there?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's it.
Very true.
Okay.
Snaps.
Yay. I'm gonna steal one. I mean, we're limited to 3. I'm many more than 3, but I'm gonna steal one. Communication is one.
Yeah, let's do it. Alley-oop.
Trust and independence or wholeness are the other two. And when I mean independence and wholeness, for me, having someone that is like fully who they are themselves and they're not dependent on me or other people in terms of how they, you know, move through the world. There's nothing wrong with being, say, interdependent, because I'm not looking for someone I'm not in a relationship or a partnership wanting someone who's a loner or wants to go off on their own, but someone that I know they can hold themselves.
Right.
And, you know, obviously I want to add to that. I want to contribute to that. But that's what I look for in a partner. And then trust is obvious. You know, when you're in any relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's business, familial, you know, vulnerability is what's really, really important. I think that's a huge part of anyone being allowed to fully be human or be themselves, is feeling that they don't have to hide things or that they can't come to, you know, it's not one thing to, you know, the whole world shouldn't necessarily know what's going on with you or has to. I mean, if you choose to, that's your choice, but it's not required. But I feel like when you're in a partnership of any sort, in order for that to grow, to thrive, to be maintained, there has to be that ability to be like, you know what? I like, you know, wearing lampshades on my head and like moonwalking with like a bowl of rice cereal. And I should feel okay telling you that and not feel judged or feel like there's going to be some type of thing. And you know, and vice versa. You know, that person that you're with in whatever relationship needs to be able to hold whatever it is and see you for who you are and be okay with that.
Very good.
Cool.
Facts. Snaps.
Yes,
Yeah.
snaps. Poetry snaps.
Don't forget the snaps.
Yes. So, I mean, my 3, I think I talked about this a little bit on our last episode, where one non-negotiable for me is kindness. Like all the people around me. And I realized that was a big mistake I was making in my life for years, that I had people around me who weren't necessarily kind. And our society doesn't necessarily champion kindness either. It's kind of like the asshole is everyone's favorite character in the movie and the TV show or whatever.
Right.
But kindness, being willing to do nice things for other people, and you don't necessarily need something in return, or you're not doing it for a specific return.
Right.
Intelligence, or the willingness to learn and grow, the desire to learn and grow, and creative thinking, which is all the same thing to me. And I guess my 3rd would be willing to communicate. Yeah. And hear the other person out. The ability to listen and hear another person's side of the story.
Word.
Yeah.
Snaps.
And I think when you find a lot of these qualities, you find the prototype. And we're going to get into our next video with Troy Weeks. Prototype.
I hope that you're the one.
So we're just gonna have a good time right now and get you involved in this experience of Troy Weeks and G Group as we do what we do. I hope that you're the one. It's loud, you are the prototype. We'll tiptoe to the sun. We'll tiptoe to the sun. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Into the things that I know tonight. Hey, I think I'm in love.
That was Troy Weeks with Prototype. He was our feature a couple months ago at The Poet Will Be Televised, which once again is July 12th. And I want to, June 12th.
June
My whole
12th.
year just like speeding by. But we've talked about things we wanted in a partner. What do we need to be a good partner
Good question.
for ourselves?
Oh, break that down again. What do we?
What do we require of ourselves to be a good partner?
Ha. That's interesting.
Like, I feel like I've personally had to change. I think I get nervous about change, even though I really like change and I like to like grow. And I can be a little codependent sometimes and kind of use my partner as a crutch, whether that's like a romantic partner or a business partner or whatnot. And I currently have a romantic partner who pushes me out to be more independent and encourages me and is like, well, you're going on the right path. Like, just keep going. So for me, I've had to change that, like, I guess questioning myself or my choices so much and just being more secure in the choices I make with my life.
Right.
Patience. I think my biggest challenge that I struggle with in everything is patience. Patience with people, patience with myself, patience with situations. I tend to like, I guess, I mean, lack of a better term, like rush into things. And it's usually for the good. But it definitely feeds some of like my anxiousness. So I think that slowing down some, in relationships especially, and then trusting that whatever the process is going to actually work. I think that is something for me to be a better partner, or I need to be a good partner, is to tap into, my patience. Because it's funny, there's certain groups of people that tell me that I'm super patient, and it usually is in relationship to me working with students. So they're always complimenting me on that. But like in my regular life or in my personal life, that's really not what I would consider a trait that I actually have. So it's funny how that works.
It's actually pretty funny. I've noticed that a lot about arts educators. And I've posed that question to groups of arts educators that I know. Like, do we use the same amount of patience and the same kind of like nonviolent communication strategies that we use with our students? Do we take those home and use them with our partners? Do we use them with our friend groups? And a lot of people are like, no, we just assume that the adult knows it. And it's like, but the only reason we know it is because we've had training for a specific reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a common issue.
Word.
Bax, what do you think?
Oh, jeez.
I told y'all I forced them to be here.
Reiterate the question one more time.
What have you had to change, or what do you need from yourself to be a better partner, to be a good partner?
Currently, as it exists in this world, the person who goes by the moniker of Baxter Wordsworth, I think I'm pretty good at relationships. Like I've been in, I guess, 4 long-term relationships, almost back to back. I think the longest I've ever been single has been like a year or a little over a year in my adult life. And I think I'm pretty good in relationships. I think to go to wherever I need to do to be like a better partner, I need to be good outside of a relationship. You know what I'm saying? So working on who I am when I'm not with somebody, I think is what I would have to do to be better at relationships. I think I know who I am when I have a partner because I've spent most of my adult life with a partner, you know? But like that whole kind of like independence, I think independence is the wrong word, but for lack of a better word, the independence, the being able to like be you by yourself. If I get better at that, I think that'll make me a better partner.
Are there specific character traits you noticed that come out more when you're in a partnership as opposed to when you're single?
No, there's nothing like specific. I'm really good at balancing things like my time with someone else, like, and things like that. But I feel like where I'm at in life, I have to dedicate more time to myself, and then whenever I figure that out, I'll be better at partnerships. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do these needs affect negative relationships you might have in your life that you just can't get rid of, whether it's familial or a friend that you just have, you're always bumping heads with?
How do these needs affect that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, I think it's the opposite. Like, it doesn't affect. I think I'm so dedicated to the relationship that it ends up being a detriment to me as an individual. So that's kind of what I was saying before. Like,
Yeah.
you only have but so much time at all, period. And I'm so good at like divvying up the pie to include other people that like I on a certain levels I've been like neglecting things that I should have been allocating towards myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that it would be the negative effect I would say that it's had. Like sometimes I look back and it's like, man, I should have spent more time with this thing over here, but like instead I've like was nurturing this other thing, which I don't regret nurturing the things that I've nurtured, but it's like, it come to a point in time where it's like, all right, you have to like give to yourself.
Yes, that is a must.
Yeah, I think I have the same problem, but not for the same reason. The last part you said in terms of giving to myself. It's funny, like I just had a conversation with someone who I work with, who I consider a friend, although a lot of my relationships at work are strange because of the fact that like it's work and I'm in a managerial role, so it's odd. That's a whole nother story. Something I didn't.
It's strange power dynamics that have been imposed on the relationship. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because I didn't really think about those things until this year, which also is strange. But that's another story. But I was talking with one of these individuals, and she was asking me, like, well, what do you do for you? As I was explaining some of the things that I'm dealing with. And I really couldn't come up with anything that was, like, significant. Like, yeah, like, releasing an album and stuff like that, but not in terms of, like, in terms of what, like, time and, like, care that I give to other people in my life and in part of my job. Like, do I do the same thing for me? And my answer was, like, no, I kind of don't. So, basically it's something that is a detriment, sort of my wanting to give in a weird way. And I always find it odd when I've thought about that. I kind of push that thought aside because I'm always concerned about being perceived as selfish.
Right.
So that would be the thing that
and it's also it gets kind of because it's not straightforward. It's not like, oh, I give and give, and because like when you are in these relationships, like you nurture these relationships that give back. Like you're with people who nurture you and things like that. But even in that, it's like you still might be neglecting. Well, it's like Mikal pointed out, like it's similar, but like not necessarily exactly.
Yeah.
Like because they're like things like putting out an album is something that like I've always dedicated some time to, but never like the one time that I did, or the times that I did complete projects is when I wasn't in a relationship. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is when I was single, and also I wasn't really even dating. Like
But at that time, music was like your bitch.
Right. Like I dedicated. I almost. It would not be an exaggeration to say I dedicated every free moment to it. Like like I remember I was working at Starbucks, and we would have 15-minute breaks, and I would take that 15 minutes to put on my headphones, and I would walk around the block writing raps. Like and I definitely have never had that same dedication to putting out a project or an album like since then. I've definitely like had moments of inspiration and moments of like where I wanted to, but not to the point like it was almost obsessive. Every moment that I had to write, I was writing.
Did you ever feel in your relationships that the individual that you were with kind of fueled some drive or inspiration to do those projects, or did you feel like
dulled your drive?
Well, definitely. So I definitely have found myself romantically linked to artistic people, and in doing such, I oftentimes, to a certain extent, mimic like their art. Like because when I dated a rapper, like we fucking rapped a lot. I dated an actress. I was in some of her plays. I dated a poet, and I like got into like reading so much more than I ever did. You know, so and that's another thing. Like being in these relationships, while these nurture habits and things that I value, it's like it's not necessarily for me, or it would be wrong to say that it's not for me. But it's part of it is part of
It's
the
not primarily you.
yeah, it's part of the relationship, you know? Because then I when I break up with them, or when the relationship ends, it doesn't necessarily stick as a facet of my personality, although like parts of it do, like, you know, which is why I think dedicating more time for myself. This is like a therapy session. Dedicating more time.
Yeah,
Sorry, that ends up happening with me. Sorry.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of like.
this poet got real deep, super quick.
But that's why I feel like
Awkward.
what I need to do currently as a person is dedicate more time to myself. You know.
Yeah.
And you might find that like those little things that those hobbies that you were picking up with your partners stick. Like I had a relationship with a guy for 2 years, and he had grown up in Europe. He was American, but he grew up in Europe, and he was half English, so he had an EU passport, and he loved to travel a lot. And it's easier to do that when you have an EU passport and you live in Europe, and you can just like bounce around.
Right.
And I never really knew anyone who dedicated that much time and energy into finding trip deals, finding like last minute flights, like
Right.
always going. But he knew that's what he really loved to do, and so he was like planning his whole life around this thing that he wanted.
Right.
I'm about to open up a can of worms. What does it? Because kind of what you just said. What does it say about me that I have like nothing that I've actually kept from relationships? Like there's very few things, like shared things, or like things that I supposedly were taught or learned from a partner. Like none of those things have actually stayed with me. Anything that I've had has been stuff that I'd already been
Well,
into.
from what I know about you,
Yeah.
and kind of like what you expressed as your
Yeah.
like kind of hierarchy of things,
Yeah.
is like identity and independence is very valuable to you, right? And like
Mhm.
you grew up in Jersey, in a place where like your identity and independence was like super necessary to you, because
Yeah.
you were like, you know, an anomaly surrounded by like all this other. So you like, I need to know who I am, right now, you know,
Right.
You know,
right.
So I think you cemented your identity so much to the point where it's like you know who you are going into these relationships. So you come out of it kind of with the same person that you
Right.
you know.
Yeah, because I've been inspired by people that I've
Right.
done stuff with, you know. But like I'm realizing that like I'm not like, oh, you know what, I picked up this habit. Like the relationship wasn't great, but like this thing that I did in the relationship actually stuck with me because it had an effect.
Yeah.
I might be opening up a can of worms, but what about veganism? We still mostly eat vegan in our house. And
Yeah.
that wasn't something you came to on your own.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's not a can of worms. That's a can of kale.
But it's funny though, because I wasn't introduced actually to that by that person. I was actually introduced to it by ESP. Shouts to ESP.
Did you start practicing that with
Mhm.
them? Oh, see, that's your fault. Then I didn't know that. Then.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you sip on whatever green slushy
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah, it actually was called the Broke Diet. So like when we first moved to New York, you know, most of what we ate was vegetarian and or vegan. So
But was it healthy?
that's
Yeah.
another story. Yeah, well, sometimes, kind of.
Well, I don't know if that was triggering, but this video is. Let's go to Triggered by Tatiana Owens.
Segway.
Yo, you and your
Pieces of you on the ground, laying around. I blew them out. Something suffocating fear. Gravity isn't pulling you in. Don't mind pull the trigger on the shotgun. I think you better start to run away from me. No, you don't have to stay with
And that was Tatiana Owens with Triggered. And at the end, she threw in a little bit of Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And it got me thinking about, there's the center of the year. It can be like a faux new year, if you will, especially for those of us who have birthdays this time of year. But it is halfway through the year and a time of reflection.
It is
Can
halfway
be.
through the year.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of things are you hoping will be reborn or kind of renewed, changed in the rest of the year? 'Cause I have something that I hope doesn't change. I've expressed to Macau that people keep telling me, oh, your whole relationship is going to change once you get married. And we already live together and we've been together 3 years. And I'm like, that sounds ridiculous.
But who says that? Like people who've been married or like single people?
People who've been married.
Well, maybe they're right.
Yeah. But I think
I've
it
never
also
been married.
depends on how invested you are in society's notion of a marriage.
Right.
And I don't personally believe that your roles inside your house or your partnership should change just because your legal status changed.
I don't know.
That's what I hope. But I know for me, it kind of is like a rebirth of an identity. So I'm cutting my hair it's going to be short for a little while and doing a couple other new things and
John
have
Mulaney.
an extra name.
John Mulaney has a comedy special where he was talking about how he was getting on a plane
Mm-hmm.
and he he's John Mulaney. He's like a comedian, so he has like he's boarding the first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, so he has 3 comedy specials on Netflix, and if you watch all 3 of them, you see. Like he talks about his relationship with his wife, but like on the first one it's his girlfriend, on the second one they're engaged, and the third one is his wife. So he talked about he's getting on the plane, and he was like, "Hey, can my wife board with me?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And he said, and saying that was like such a different thing. He said, "I felt stupid saying like, hey, can my girlfriend get on the plane with me?" But it's like, that's my wife. You get your hands off my wife. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I do believe there probably is a psychological like switch that goes off when you guys start like acknowledging each other as like wife and husband. But
Isn't that more about society's perception
I
of
don't
the
think so.
importance of a girlfriend and a wife? Like,
I mean, when you look at this man and like that's your husband, maybe there'll be a difference. But as a single Baxter, I will say that I don't know.
It's funny because I just had this conversation with someone else who articulated it really well, and I feel horrible because I completely forgot exactly how they put it. And I could say so much more, but I'm just going to let it fly. I'm just going to let it fly. I need art and some passion to things that I enjoy to be reborn. I feel like the biggest thing, the irony of it is I'm promoting an album, and I have an album, and we just got off tour. But I feel like I've come to this realization that I don't spend any time at all really delving into my own art and craft, and I don't really spend a lot of time looking for inspiration, and I feel it was so much easier when my responsibilities weren't so great. And that's what I'm struggling with now. And I never thought. I'm still working on a whole bunch of other stuff on air as we're all talking. But I literally.
Is this on-air therapy session?
On-air therapy session. Yeah, I mean, I've been just going through a really tough period for a little while. And I'm realizing, like, it's funny that you're talking about my identity being cemented, because if my 18-year-old self, I always talk about, like, if my 42-year-old self could talk to my 18-year-old self, he'd be like, look how far you've gotten.
Right.
But now, if my 18-year-old self, if they were to see their 42-year-old self, they'd be like, what did you do?
Right.
Because like I'm behind a desk. Most of my life is really centered around, it's not even, the truth of the matter is it's not even really centered around young people and art. It's about administrating and operationalizing things. I've never been one of these individuals that's been like, oh, there's creativity in everything. No, there's no creativity in spreadsheets. It's not a thing. There's no creativity in data. Sorry.
No, there is no creativity in spreadsheets.
No, sorry.
Jade, you have a creative spreadsheet.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's nice. It's decorated. That's great. That's wonderful. No. So, but no, I love you though, for real. But no. So I've never been like.
I'm gonna send you all my spreadsheets.
Yeah,
when
like
when the orgs I work for ask me for my
Yeah.
teaching pass on a spreadsheet,
For
I'm gonna
real.
be like, "Hold on, Jade, my
right.
assistant,
And
my spreadsheet wizard just needs to get to this."
And it might be my limitation in my imagination of saying that, but I don't find inspiration from the majority of what my job actually is, and I hold on to these small bits that really what they do is it mimics the actual joy that I've been
Right.
blessed to have, which is being in a room full of young people and directly working with them, or being on the road. Like I'm so weird. Like I tell Dale all the time. Like I love hotels. I love airports. I love being in a plane. I actually like not being home, especially because then when coming home feels so much better. If I'm home all of the time,
Right.
that's not the greatest thing, because it means that I have I'm in a life now that I have a forced routine. I'm actually a very casual fly by the seat of his pants person. And now I have a life that's super regimented and super routine, and that is not what I wanted. And I've learned and developed the ability to be professional and all of those things outside of this job. So it's not like I've ever been like wild and crazy and like messed up my finances or like missed dates. So I know how to dot I's and cross T's, but it was always in the vest of like, I move how I want to move. And now I have a life where like I move when somebody says for me to move, and I have to include people in things. Not because I want to, but because like I have to. So it's a weird place that I'm in.
So the rebirth that you're looking for is kind of like more of a return to that, or
Yeah. It's like a rebirth of me. I feel like this version of Mikal is a very highly efficient, very dependable, do it by the book, on the clock, boring as fuck, tired as fuck, and it's not enjoyable. But it's funny because I think there's a whole section of my world that loves this Mikal, or like is so good with this Mikal, and I feel like this Mikal is like a quarter of what I actually am.
right.
That when I was, even though I was struggling, with money and still running around, like me being the teaching artist, rapper, that's it. That was more me than this me. This me serves other people. That me served me, and I need to rebirth that somehow. Don't know if it's going to happen in June or July, but it's got to happen sooner than later. Sooner than later.
Well, a lot of our problems originate in our minds, and we're gonna listen to Iniko with "In My Mind."
Yeah.
daddies. You say you love me, but I know it's a lie. When I work so hard to keep you satisfied, about to lose about to lose my mind, my mind, about to lose my about to lose how could you do this to me? No way, no way. She can't take you away from me. And I sure won't stay, but I'll be damned if I ever leave. No way, no way. She won't take you away from me. And I sure won't stay, but I'll be damned if I ever leave. If I ever leave. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, no way, no way. She can take you away from me. Think about you all the time. In my mind, you'll always be mine. Oh, no. Thank you.
So that was Emiko with In My Mind, straight from her featured performance last year at The Poet Will Be Televised. And we're going to continue our conversation a little bit about rebirth. And it can be...
Unfair. No.
Sorry. But, it doesn't have to be super personal and gut-wrenching and
Yes, it
therapeutic.
It kind of does.
Awkward.
How can you be how can it
Well, what would you want out of your favorite music artists? How would you want them to, some of them to be reborn?
I
this year?
don't.
You don't?
I like
So if like Andre 3000 was reborn, like his career was reborn
listen, this is
tomorrow.
this is I've
Just come back out.
yeah, not
Drop
even.
something.
I've reached a point in my development where like I'm happy for the stuff that they did, and if they never did anything again, that's fine at this point. Like, I don't have an expectation for my art, for the artist that I like, to do anything specific. Specifically, Andre 3000. I think he's like one of the people that like I learned this the most with, because he's never really done the things that like I wanted him to do. You know what I'm saying? I bring this up. I bring this point. Like, he's never done a rap song. Like, you know, he's never done 3 or 2 verses and a hook by himself at all.
Right.
He's featured on a bunch of stuff. He's done a lot of things with Big Boy. He's done songs where he's dropped one verse on a song.
Yeah, or he's sung songs.
Right, and then maybe threw a verse on that song, or he's done like one long verse. But traditionally, like a traditional rap song, he's never done one. And if he has, like, I don't know it, and I know
You know
almost
what?
all his stuff.
Now that you say that, Andre 3000 might be the truest definition of an artist. He truly just
Right.
does
Whatever-
what he
whatever
he's
he
not,
feels.
He's not concerned about his fan base. He's not concerned about
Well, he-
a label. He just
Yeah.
does what he's whatever's moving him. He does.
Well, no, I think he is concerned, but that's why he does the things that he feels the most comfortable with. Because he when they were right after the time they dropped Stankonia and they were going into the Love Below, he was talking about how like every album they ever dropped did more than the one before it.
Yes.
Like they were just one of the few artists who like were just every album was like bigger, bigger, bigger.
Yeah.
And he's like, one day that isn't going to be the case, and he was like dreading that. Like, you know, he was like, what's going to happen when we don't? Like, everybody's going to
Yeah.
act like we suck, like, you know. And I think that fear of kind of like
Failure.
a little bit, but I think it's kept him doing things that he felt comfortable doing. You know, he's
I
like,
don't know if he always felt comfortable, like, because I know him and Big Boy had conversations about the way he was dressing, and Big Boy didn't agree. Like, they should be changing their look and
but
all
I
that.
think it's I think you're right, but different, right? Like, if you I think when he did it, he feels really himself. So
Yeah.
that's a different kind of comfortable. Like, you know, he obviously felt uncomfortable with the scrutiny, but sometimes it's like, if I wasn't dressing like this, then I would feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you know,
you wouldn't even want to do it.
Right. It's better to feel like yourself and get scrutinized than to hide and get the love for it.
That's true.
Allegedly.
I've definitely been there in that space.
Right. Because a lot of times, you know, he also got love for it. Like, he became Andre 3000. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't have been Andre 3000 if he continued wearing oversized jerseys and rapping about hoes and pimps and guns, you know?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have become outcasts. They would have been fucking like everybody else.
Yeah.
That's true. He's the only one on the International Players album that doesn't talk about
That.
pimping. Yeah, in some form.
Yeah. I mean, and he, like, well, this is we get off tangent.
Or actually wanting to pimp.
But if you just listen to his lyrics, like he details his evolution and his artistic perspective, like every album. Like, there's one album he's like I stopped drinking and smoking because I thought I'd start the second album off on a different note. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you see him realizing that, like, yo, why am I rapping about these things? You know, like, just because I'm supposed to. And then you see him trying different things. Let's talk about something mind raveling, like, you know, it's that's why he's such a phenomenal artist to follow. I think, one, because he doesn't follow any of the
Conventions.
the conventional trajectories of artists, period. And two, you can, if you listen to the albums in succession, you can actually like detail his growth, where a lot of times the growth of an artist happens behind the scenes, and then when they come back out, there's dissonance between the fan base and the artist. I always point out like Mos Def, because Mos Def put out Black on Both Sides, which was one of the most hard hip hop albums out at the time, right? And on that album, he experiments a lot with singing. He experiments a lot with instrumentation and stuff like that. But then the next album, he jumped so far ahead that his fan base wasn't able to follow him there, you know? So they was like, Mos, where's the raps? And it like, you know, because him, Q-Tip, Andre 3000, they were all kind of on that like trajectory of like, yo, we want to make music more than hip hop, you know? But Andre 3000, and it might have been because he was held He was like restrained by Big Boy. It's like we can't go too far away from the last album. Like, yo, we'll do some stuff, but we gonna rap and we gonna bring the Goody Mob in, like, you know. So,
And then the Goody Mob just started trying to do Andre 3000. So.
but it helped the fan base follow them there,
Yeah.
you know. So by the time we got to Hey Ya, it wasn't like, what the fuck is this? We was like, yeah, this makes sense.
But then none of y'all listen to the Idlewild soundtrack, which is a great album.
I mean, because it was an Outcast, though. It was a bunch
But
of.
no, it's Outkast.
I mean, it is
They're on
Outkast,
every single song.
But it was like a break. They like, I think the Idlewild soundtrack was a great idea. Was a great for them because it was a soundtrack. It wasn't an Outkast album, and it was the first time they didn't sell more than the one before it. So it's kind of like a asterisk. It's like, yeah, Idlewild didn't sell more than Speakerboxxx and The Love Below, but it was a soundtrack.
But it was great.
I mean, it's not.
I just feel like
Nobody says it's not great. Who says it's not great?
you say it's not great. You didn't listen to it.
That's
I
because
still haven't listened.
it
to the
doesn't
whole
resonate
thing,
with me the
honestly.
same way everything else does.
I ain't gonna. She's gonna hate me for this because that's her favorite like Outkast thing. I'd never even really considered it an Outkast album.
I mean, it is.
I mean,
It is.
People assume because it's a soundtrack, it's not all the same artists, but they're literally on every single song.
Not every song.
They're
They threw some bones to like what's the Big Boy's little brother's name?
Oh no.
I don't know. But like, I mean, Hollywood Divorce is an amazing song. Morris Brown is
Right.
on that album.
You're absolutely
and then
right.
like the song that influenced
Mighty O.
me, no,
No, I'm saying
so
that's on
much.
it.
Neutron Angel is on there,
Right.
and it's not like Andre does not have the lead vocals on it, but you can hear him in the background. It's Wild Peach singing the song.
Yeah.
So it's like even the songs that don't have them in the forefront, you can hear them in the background.
I guess because it's not as cohesive an Outkast album. Like all of their albums kind of follow like a theme that like I put it on and it's like I'm going on a journey. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From really from ATLiens was my first Outkast album. No, Stankonia was the first one I heard. But like all of them, like you could put ATLiens on it from the first when it starts. You can't be sure.
Yeah.
Like you're going on a journey on this album. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's true.
And Idlewild doesn't feel like that to me. Those songs that you mentioned are phenomenal. I agree. Hollywood Divorce, freaking Morris Brown, the Mighty O, all of that is dope. But it just doesn't. It's not like it doesn't feel like an Outkast. Those are songs that I would listen to
individually.
like on a playlist or something like that.
Side note, unrelated but related. Just because of the comment you made, I feel like every great group, that is literally how it feels. Like it's an experience. Like when you listen to Outkast, it just is a whole different experience. When you
Right.
listen to the Roots, it's like your
Wu-Tang?
your Wu-Tang, your
Earth, Wind, and
Tribe.
Fire.
Yeah,
Facts.
No, but like, yeah, you're kind of like entering a realm. I like really great
Yeah.
groups. That's what it. I mean, even artists too, but like groups especially, just because you're telling this whole like world in your music. Yeah,
And especially albums. That's why even I brought it up before. Most Def's Black on Both Sides. It's one of my favorite albums of all times. As soon as it starts, you're like, you know what you're getting into, and it feels so Brooklyn too. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
yeah.
And it's like, yo, man, now I'm getting sad because artists don't make albums like that anymore. You know, or not even that they don't make albums like that.
No, you're
anymore.
right. Nope,
They
don't
just
clean
get
it up.
hyped
You're right.
up.
But the albums
No,
also.
I feel like there was more push behind albums in general before. Now there's so much. It's harder to find the albums that you would resonate with because there's so many albums out.
And albums also aren't appreciated though.
Right.
Like people don't listen to albums anymore. They
I
find
would rather you
Unless
just
your
start
name is
dropping-
Anderson .Paak
or Kendrick Lamar.
or Kendrick Lamar
Okay.
but like
But
people
I think more people would rather you just
or
drop a bunch
Beyonce
of
or
singles.
Janelle Monáe. There's actually a few.
Well, Beyonce kind of like refuses to put out just like singles. Like she just does. She's been doing these secret albums for like what 6 years now.
Word.
Like her first one was Beyonce, and that was in 2014.
But she can only-
that she just like randomly dropped, and no one even knew she was working on an album.
But she has the privilege to do that because she's Beyonce. Because
Yeah.
other people have tried. Like I think the Lox dropped a secret album once.
It stayed a secret.
That motherfucker was like, "Where's the key?" No, felt like Bad
It's
Boy.
still hidden.
Felt like Bad Boy Street Team. But
Oh.
the Lox they have their fan base, you know, and like if it had promotion, if it had lead up, it probably would have done like way better. But it's like you're not Beyonce, like
Yeah.
you're like you can't just drop an album and have people look for it just by word of mouth, you know.
Yeah. Like people literally woke up their friends and was like, Beyonce just dropped the album. Get
Right.
the fuck up.
But that's also
get out
because
of your bed.
Beyonce has a track record of having albums you can listen to.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
where it's like a lot of artists nowadays, artists bank on the single. Like look at this kid, Little Nas X, right? He has a whole career off of one song, you know? Designer off of one song, you know? Bobby Shmurda off of one song, you know? So it's like that's why album labels don't care about albums anymore, because it's like we're going to find an artist, we're going to get this one song, and we're going to repeat that process. We'll find the next kid after that, you know? And it's like it's because it's easier to do that than it is to find a Kendrick Lamar
But do
or to
labels
find a
even
J.
still
Cole.
run the industry?
Yeah.
You think?
Why do you think you see all of the same people on magazine covers, even though these people aren't selling albums? No, like the people who actually sell, who go platinum with albums, aren't the people you see. You know, it's like they put up Little Yachty, they put up Little Uzi Vert. These are people who are like popular, yeah, but check their album sales.
Yeah, they're barely pushing in the hundreds of thousands.
You know who's selling albums? J. Cole. This kid
Yeah.
Russ, who nobody, like, nowhere. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But that's also too, when you think about it, why J. Cole has a full on like
Right.
tour for him. Yachty goes on tour, but Yachty's usually in support. When Yachty goes on tour, Yachty's doing a tour with like several
Yeah.
other artists. It's not like the Yachty tour and people supporting him.
Right.
So, yeah.
But you know, but labels have the money for marketing, they have the money for promotion, and they get their artists on the front of magazines, they get their artists in commercials, they get their artists like
They get their artists licensing deals and
freaking
placements.
DC
and
Young
writing.
Fly and Yachty doing How High 2. That's just marketing. They don't give a crap about that movie. That's not artist. There's no art. There's no
Wait,
art.
what movie?
Oh,
How High 2 came out.
It came out?
Yep. It was
So they replaced Method Man and Redman with Lil Yachty and
DC
I
Young Fly.
didn't need to know this. At
No
all.
one does.
I'm so
no
upset.
one does because first off, How High is a cult classic. It's a hip hop cult classic. Redman and Method Man both are actually two truly hilarious individuals. Like they are
Yeah.
just
Like,
funny
they
in their
weren't
own
even
right.
acting.
But even
And
beyond,
their chemistry is great.
even beyond that, when they went into it to be funny and make a funny movie. Like you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, this is good for my career or the label wants
They're
this
like
to happen.
all
Yeah.
of these weed jokes that we tell each other on tour and all these
We're
stupid
gonna
stories.
We're gonna make a whole
we
movie
ha-
about it. And
we
then
was-
have
yeah.
somebody like
Write
Baba Albatunde in it. Like, just, like
But even if you look, if you go back, like Dame Dash had deals with Miramax to make things like the one with Cameron.
yeah.
Belly.
No, the one with
No.
Cameron.
Oh.
It's named
one-
after one of their albums.
Yeah, the one up in Harlem.
Yeah.
But that movie, like Dame Dash, like was making deals with actual movie studios to make these things. So it wasn't just like a vehicle to push a Cameron album. It was like a vehicle to like make a good piece of art and you know, raise Cameron's visibility. But it's like nowadays, like you could look at this movie, it's like they just want Yachty in your face. They just want DC Young Fly in your face so they could do like more stuff with them. And more power to them. That's what labels do. You know, they're
that's the
businesses.
marketing. That's
Yeah.
the marketing.
They want to get their artists on a magazine. They want to get their artists in a commercial. They want to get their artists in your face as much as possible. They don't even really care if the artists are selling records.
So that's probably why they're dying.
Facts.
But for anyone who's listening, what would y'all say to keep? What do y'all want them to keep in their face for the rest of the year?
My album.
True story. Keep the passport.
Keep it
in
as
your
simple.
face.
My album. Yeah. That's it.
You can download it on all major platforms.
I would say, just keep the consciousness of your faculty, like you know the choices you have. I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of the choices they have. They complain about the way things are, not realizing they can opt out. You know, they complain about social media. You don't have to be on social media. They complain about the way music looks. There's so much music out there. You might just have to like look for something and not take what's like thrown in front of you. They complain about like, you know, their job or their life. You know, a lot of things start changing when you ask yourself how you want to feel versus how something is making you feel, you know? Like I work hospitality. I manage a coffee shop, right? Of course, motherfuckers come in there sometimes and they got an attitude, you know, and it's easy to let their attitude become your attitude. But a lot of the times, be 6 o'clock in the morning, people come in there and they go like, wow, you're in a good mood. I'm like, well, if I have a choice in the matter, why not choose to be in a good mood? Like, you know what I'm saying? People wake up and they lean into that bad mood. You're like, oh man, I'm tired. I'm grumpy. It's like, do you want to be grumpy? Have you ever asked yourself that? You know, do you want to be upset at 6 o'clock in the morning? Try not being. You know, is it possible? Probably more possible than you think. But yeah, keep that in mind, people, if you're listening.
Yeah. I'd like people to keep in mind that they do have the power to change whatever they want. And they have the power to make the life and that they really desire.
Right.
Or one very close to what they desire. And just as fulfilling.
You could catch all the Pokemon if you really believe.
Yes, you could. Wow. How did that movie go anyway? Did
It
y'all see that
didn't.
movie?
It was cool. It was cute.
It was cute.
Yeah. If you like Pokemon, go see it. It's cute.
Cool.
If you like Ryan Reynolds talking that Ryan Reynolds shit, go see it. It's cute.
If you like Ryan Reynolds in movies being himself.
Right. Exactamundo. I'm
All
Ryan
right.
Reynolds. I'm going to say something snarky.
In a high-pitched voice. Or a breathy voice. Because he does that a lot.
What does he play in the Pokemon film?
He's
He plays the Pokemon.
Oh wow.
Do you know he was married to Scarlett Johansson?
Yes, I
Yes.
What? I didn't know that. I found that out today. And he was engaged to Alanis Morissette.
did. Yes. He got married to Scarlett
He's
Johansson.
had some royal failures.
He's married to Blake Lively now.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing pretty good.
They got
They're
3
having-
kids.
Well, she's pregnant with the third one.
Oh. Wow. Getting that Deadpool money.
Yep.
Scarlett Johansson been married 2 times.
Yeah. She
En-
just got another divorce.
Engaged for the third. To,
Oh, really?
yeah, to the head writer, the co-head writer of SNL.
Oh.
Colin
Oh,
Jost.
yeah, I did hear that.
I'm like, damn.
We
this is-
know way too much.
I learned
about
all
other
this
people's
today, though.
lives.
Oh,
I-
I knew.
I got on a Google binge, and I learned all this today. Because I was like, yo, celebrities treat marriage like dating. It's like get married for 3 years, break up, and then get married again. I'm like, damn, there's so much money at stake. Why not just like see how
I
it
don't
works
know.
out?
I mean, it's also because, like, especially actors, our celebrities, when you're an artistic person, you're such an intense person anyway. I mean, if you've ever been in a room full of actors, it's just, they're super,
Trauma.
yeah, they're just super
Comedy.
intense. And it makes sense that actors get married so much. Like, if you know any actors in your life, it's like, well, y'all are just like
They're like,
intense all
Deborah,
the time.
will you marry me?
Yeah, all the time.
Of course
It's like,
I will.
and then 2 weeks later, they're regretting it, but they're like, no, I'm going to go through this. And it's like,
I can't
it's too
do
late
this
now.
anymore, Deborah. I need a divorce.
yeah, it happens.
I don't want to get married more than once.
You know,
I know it happens, but still.
but like divorce, we have to wrap up.
Oh.
So I don't think we have any more songs on our playlist. No. Okay.
How many times was Stevie Wonder married?
Many.
4? Damn. 4 times?
He be writing music about loving someone forever.
He actually claims that like the songs that he's written that have said things like that were about his kids, not his wives. And I know
Isn't She
right
Lovely is about his
now-
kids.
Yeah, and right now is like his daughter and his current wife are both backup singers for him or something, and they're like the same age. Weird. Anyway,
What?
thank you all for listening. We'll be back. I think the next date is July 7th, but see us on June 12th for the poll will be televised at Sylvana in Harlem. See you soon, and keep listening to Skies Crescent Radio for all the goodness, good music, dope beats, and talk radio. Peace.